I'll walk you through the steps of what happens next legally with Tyler Robinson, who is now in custody for the killing of Charlie Kirk. I'll go through the legal process and then analysis of the evidence as well. So usually what happens in Utah at the very beginning, there's an arraignment hearing. That's the very first hearing where you're read your rights, your right to an attorney, right to a jury trial. And at that point, most defendants plead not guilty, and most people think, well, why are you pleading guilty if you know you did it? But that's just how it works procedurally. You can plead not guilty because it's the state's burden to prove guilt. And so most of the time, defendants, when they're represented by legal counsel at that hearing, they plead not guilty. So that would be the first hearing. And then what happens next in Utah, what they have is what's called a preliminary hearing. And what the preliminary hearing is they're supposed to decide whether or not there's enough probable cause to bind the case over to trial. So probable cause means more likely than not it happened. So it's a lower evidence standard than what it is at a criminal trial. So criminal trial is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Preliminary hearing is more likely than not. And they set a date for a preliminary hearing, but usually that preliminary hearing gets pushed out because both sides, defense and prosecution, are passing evidence back and forth. So there may be a preliminary hearing set at the arraignment date, but I assume that's going to be pushed out. And also they can waive the preliminary hearing, and sometimes when the evidence is so insurmountable, it's just worth it to just waive the preliminary hearing. So we'll see if the preliminary hearing gets waived. So then what we're looking at evidence-wise, so what I've heard is that Tyler Robinson approached his father, told his father that he committed the crime. So that is really an open and shut case for prosecutors. They can use that as a opposing party statement. There's a hearsay exception, so that can come in as evidence. So that really, his confession that he made to his father really makes this an easy case for the prosecutors. Even if there wasn't a confession, there still is a lot of evidence. There's video evidence of him being tied to the scene. I mean, all the video evidence would have to show that he's the one that was on the roof, that he fell off the roof, because there's videos of someone being on the roof, falling off the roof, the shooter. Also, when he falls off the roof, it looks like his arm print hit the roof, and also his hands might have touched it. And also, he wasn't wearing gloves, and he goes, from what I understand, I saw videos of police with flashlights at night searching the area around the area of the school and looking for the gun. And I believe that's where they found the gun, which is 30-06. And so there's probably fingerprints on the gun. There's probably fingerprints on the roof. They probably have that. And then they can do a ballistics test on the gun and determine if the same bullet that hit Charlie Kirk is the same bullet that came from the gun. Guns all have like their own fingerprint when it comes out of the barrel, and so they can determine that, yes, this is the gun that shot Charlie Kirk, and his fingerprints on it. So even if there wasn't an admission, it seems like a pretty open and shut case evidence-wise. A lot of people, conspiracy theorists, I think, are saying that, hey, this was like a hit job. Somebody paid him to take out Charlie Kirk. This, from what I see from the evidence and everything, this was a very amateur job. Just somebody that went radical politically and wasn't tied to any bigger scheme that I see it. And also, I mean, even though Charlie Kirk was a big name, he didn't have any political power. It didn't seem like there was much to gain for anyone to take him out. I think this was a lone wolf acting on the job here. So, and also one thing I want to know is what is so awesome about this nation. I think the best invention ever made was the Gutenberg press, and that's really what has made it so we've had so many great inventions and advancements in technology, and the first social media essentially. And the second best thing is the First Amendment, which protects the press. And I think that's one of the best things we have in our nation is the First Amendment. And so, but what comes with First Amendment is protecting the First Amendment. And I think in wake of all this, I know there's a lot of left and right rhetoric, but I think it's important that we keep debates open and that we can openly debate. But in order to protect the First Amendment, it has to be done with civility. It can't be done with violence or even anger, emotional words. And so I think this is the check for us all. We're all Americans. We're all humans. We all have differences, but we got to keep our emotions in check and agree to disagree so we can move forward on this. Hopefully this can be a learning moment for us all.